From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We're joined as always with our super producer, Paul Mission Control Decant. Most importantly, you are here, and that makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. Interesting way to get into this. Have you guys ever been driving somewhere and you see an exit on the interstate and you think, what if I just went here instead?
Mm-hmm. Especially if it has a fun name, you know, like Weed, California, or, Cairo, Georgia.
Yeah, I almost get off at Beaver Ruin every time I pass that exit.
That sounds like a euphemism for something. I can't imagine what, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm always partial to little known, I love tourist traps, and I'm always partial to, something that advertises itself not as the first best of a thing, but like the second or fourth best, where it's like the fourth biggest frying pan in the East Coast. Then I'm like, I'm in, I'll go.
I appreciate the modesty. I'm much more inclined to believe that than the best, because there can only be one best. So it seems like, New York's best cup of coffee or whatever is like at every little diner, but third best, I'd be more inclined to believe there's some stats backing that up.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome, folks. We're doing some free marketing for you, and we guarantee it will work as long as we are not held responsible for the consequences of your decision. And speaking, this is a thing that happens to a lot of people. We all, at some point, start imagining our lives as they would be if a few decisions were different, or if we went somewhere else, turned left instead of turned right. That's why in fiction, the ideas of multiverses are so popular, because we always think about the possibilities of living another life. And if you have ever dreamed of starting over, this is the episode for you. This is the second or fourth best episode for you. There we go. To make it sound realistic. Yeah, we're talking about a real life series of government-supported conspiracies, not theories, real, genuine conspiracies paid for by your tax dollars. This is WITSEC, or Witness Security, otherwise known as Witness Protection. Here are the facts.
So we've talked about the Federal Witness Protection Program a good bit recently in an earlier listener mail segment on the hack that took place targeting the U.S. Marshals. It's a program that you probably are aware of, too, from like mob movies and the like. It's intended for crucial witnesses who have valuable testimony to contribute to, trials, and typically folks that would be seen as being in immediate danger as a result of the testimony that they're making, usually because it targets some dangerous people.
Yeah, former mafia, cartel, gang members, anyone who is in a tight-knit group who is becoming a turncoat, essentially, against their group. Also terrorists, hey, both domestic and foreign, no matter where you live.
And this would be like after the trial, probably, right? I mean, because of retribution, not necessarily protecting against witness tampering. That would be more of like a custodial thing that would happen during the course of the trial. This is more of a permanent kind of solution, right?
This is permanent, and it starts before the testimony, because the entire entire point is to try to keep, Johnny last name or whatever alive, so that they can get their testimony on record. And, a lot of times, the marshals are trying to get in front of groups that have a high level of sophistication, an established track record of witness tampering, up to and including murder. These aren't the folks who just bribe someone. They might offer you a bribe, but if they decide it's more effective / cheaper to kill you, they will do so without compunction, and they'll sleep just fine at night.
No question. Thanks for the clarification.
And before we jump forward, guys, I just want to make one quick note on the Marshals hack. That hack, at least according to the Marshals, did not affect this witness protection program at all.
Right, because it's kind of firewalled, right? It's how did you describe it, Matt? It's like a cottage on a compound. So the hack did compromise information, but as far as we know, not the information pertaining to WITSEC participants.
They hit the cottage instead of the big house.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And look, honestly, fellow conspiracy realist, something like WITSEC has existed for a long time. I mean, think of the man in the iron mask. The mask probably wasn't actually iron, whatever. We're fun at parties. Think of Operation Paperclip, when the Allied forces, the U.S. at least in Paperclip, spirited away Nazi scientists. They made a cost-benefit analysis and said these folks are more valuable to us in a lab than in a prison or in the chair. Or I guess they were hanging people. Anyway, throughout the span of modern civilization... Fun at parties. The authorities of any given power structure have often been willing to bend the rules if you have something of value to offer. And witness security as a program, the modern version of it, it really came about as a bunch of individual cases that began in the early 1960s with mob investigations, right?
Yeah, the RICO cases that have all become movies at this point, or limited series. Like all of them.
RICO, I know that guy.
Yeah.
That's the worst joke ever.
Good dude.
Good dude. Knows a lot of people. This originally starts with something called the Organized Crime and Racketeering Section of the Department of Justice, the DOJ. And they were led by Robert F. Kennedy, who you may recognize for some earlier episodes. And
a lady in a polka dot dress. Okay. Move on.
The lady in a polka dot dress. Yes. And one guy named Gerald Schur was part of the team. Gerald Schur passed away in 2020, but he is most well known as the man who would go on to create the modern witness security program. So saying, hey, we're doing all this protection in these individual cases. Let's set a precedent, right? Let's try to get some standards in here so that the left hand knows what the right is doing when it needs to. And they've done a lot. Thousands of people have been in the witness protection program, some of whom might be tuning in to today's episode. If you are if you're one of those people, good luck. Stay safe. Don't do any crimes. Don't
write an email to us. We don't care what your new name is. We'll get into that later. Don't message us.
Don't jaywalk. Don't be late on your library books. You know what I mean? Stay out of the dog track.
To quote the old Josh Clark YouTube series, just don't be dumb.
Don't be dumb.
Oh, yeah, there you go. But it's not, that's easier said than done because we'll get into it.
Easier said than dumb?
Oh, boy. But when you think about the numbers, right? Ben, you found some numbers for us here. Over 7,500 people since 1970 have been placed into this program, and that's individuals who need to be protected. But what many people, including myself, forget is that this also includes immediate family members. Often, not always, but often.
Often, yeah. The spouse, the kids, because, the Marshal Service tried to draw a line and say, look, we don't want to have to be the people who come tell this, 4-year-old, your mom disappeared.
Or to protect the 4-year-old at all times because the mom went into witness protection, right? So now what do you do with the 4-year-old?
Targeting the 4-year-old or targeting the immediate family would be a real easy way to draw the target person out of witness protection into the light, to then be dealt with.
100%. And so in a way, this is government-supported pseudocide, faking of one's death. And when you have the help of Uncle Sam, it's a lot easier to do some things than it would be if you were an independent actor. Right now, 3 different U.S. organizations manage aspects of this program. This does not count any off-the-books kind of CIA paperclip style relocations, which absolutely do happen in the United States and abroad. We're talking about the official stuff. I know, conspiracies in conspiracies.
Did you hear that unknown person just talk to us?
I did.
Was that in my
hear
head?
That clip. No, you're not having a stroke.
No,
I heard
that was an accidental rollover ad on my browser that came out in my speakers. Sorry about that, y'all.
Rollover ads. Rollover ad. You know, who sees a rollover ad and says, "I'm going to buy that"?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for invading my my ears with that noise.
It's the new version of the door-to-door salesman.
Yeah, they
right?
just bust in your front door into your study or wherever you keep your computer and like, hey!
Oh, you're reading about witness protection. Why not buy a Dyson vacuum cleaner? Right? Like stuff like that.
You have an extra $4,000, right?
Is that how much they are?
I don't know. They're insane.
And Dysons are, I'm not sponsored by them, but I say go for the Shark instead of the Dyson. It works
Shark's
just as
good.
well, and
Yeah.
they're a good bit less expensive. And also, I think it's so funny that whenever you buy a thing like that, that's when you start getting the flood of ads for the same things. We've always commiserated about that on the show, but it still happens to me. I don't know why they haven't sussed that out yet.
Mm-hmm. Right. This guy, what's the example? Oh, this guy bought a toilet. He must want 6 more. Maybe he'll treat himself. You know, this guy likes to poop.
I mean, I could understand. You buy a toilet, you start getting served with ads for bidets or toilet accessories. You know, like a putting green, which I saw at Big Lots the other day. A toilet putting green.
Pseudocide.
Pseudocide. Yeah, faking your death.
Thank you,
Shout
Matt.
out to Plain Dead by Elizabeth Greenwood. That's probably the best book written on the subject. Faking your death on your own, disappearing. It's increasingly difficult in the age of ubiquitous surveillance and social media and so on, but it is still possible. The reason most people get caught is because they either contact people from their old life or they try to profit in some way. So if you just ghost and you don't touch any possible money, any insurance claims or whatever, your chances of getting away are much higher. If you go with the Marshal Service and you're in WITSEC, then according to them, you have 100% chance of being safe so long as you follow their rules, which we'll get into. That's a caveat.
Yeah, 100%. It's like that number one cup of coffee. Little sus.
It's
hard
kind
to
of
promise that. Hard to promise that is all I'm saying.
Exactly. It's kind of like if we were going to make up a tricky statistic and we said nobody in a submarine has died in a car crash while on the submarine. Like, of course they haven't, but yeah,
if everything is perfect and just so, like things definitely are all the time, then no one will ever die in the witness protection program.
Let's talk about one of the wrinkles here when we're talking about the Marshal Service and what they do for this witness protection program. They provide the basic things we've talked about, right? Security. They watch out for your health, right? They do all kinds of stuff when it comes to just protecting you if you're not already in prison. Because some of these witnesses that come forward are incarcerated before they go and need to take the stand, right? So what happens to them? Do you just change their name and put them in a different prison system somewhere?
They're under the Federal Bureau of Prisons. The Bureau of Prisons, or BOP. They look after the incarcerated witnesses. And the marshals, so the marshals and BOP, they're like the boots on the ground. The general, in this case, the one who's sending them to the trenches, that's something called the Office of Enforcement Operations under the Department of Justice, the OEO, because we love an acronym. OEO. I hope they do it right. Like all 3 of us just clocked that. You probably clocked that listening at home.
Well, I think, Matt, you were doing The Wizard of Oz. I was doing Juggo Love by Morris Day and the Time, which many will remember featured in the Jay and Silent Bob movie. OEO.
And they still all work together, which is a nice little thematic metaphor here. So the OEO has, now the sound keys in my head, they are the ones who make the call as to who gets admitted and what happens to them afterwards. And a lot of things can happen to them. It's complicated. So their main thing is you can get into WITSEC if your life is in danger because of the testimony that you will give in the future. And you have to definitely be giving that testimony against traffickers, terrorists, mafia, other major criminals, and they will erase your old identity. They'll put you in a city where you're not likely to be recognized. They'll give you a new name and a new life, and they'll do the same for your immediate family members, but not everybody can get in. It's not as tough as successfully pleading insanity in court, but it's pretty rare, right? Because there's a lot of crime.
A really great film about sort of, where the impetus for the action of the film is somebody being in witness protection, unless I'm completely mistaken. It is a David Cronenberg film called A History of Violence, where it's about a gentleman played by Viggo Mortensen who, runs a diner in this small town, and then folks come and roll into town. I can't remember if he was in WITSEC or if he just sort of did it himself, but it's still the same scenario, where the bad guys find out and then there's a rumble in the streets, and
wasn't he infiltrating the thieves-in-law, like the Russian?
Correct.
Yeah.
But I can't remember exactly. Yeah, no, you're right. He definitely was in WITSEC. You're absolutely right, Ben. Yeah, really great movie. Different for Cronenberg. Most people know him for like body horror, gross out stuff, but this is very much just a solid crime thriller. Excellent picture.
A lot of great stuff in there about the Russian criminal underground, and actually an interesting emphasis on the cultural phenomenon of tattoos in that organization.
That's very true.
Oh man,
there's also Eastern Promises, which was the tattoo one, I think. Also starring Viggo.
Dang.
So there's some crossover between the two, because there was also Russian, stuff in History of Violence.
Two really good movies, guys. All right, I want to talk about something. We talked about the high number, 7,500 people since 1970 have gone into this. That is nowhere near the number of high-value witnesses that have given testimony in the United States.
Is that because the criteria is so strict, or why isn't that number higher?
Well, it seems to me there must be some metric or something that has to be hit for that. What do we call it? OEO, for them to look at an individual and say, okay, we need to protect you.
Yeah, there's a rubric. I mean, it's the government, so there's a lot of bureaucracy. There's some paperwork here. The U.S. Attorney General's office has the final say-so on who gets in, and their requirements are pretty specific. Without getting too into the weeds of the legalese, any offense that involves organized crime or racketeering makes you eligible. Drug trafficking offenses, as described in Title 21 of the U.S. Code, which most people wouldn't know offhand. Any other felony for which a witness may provide testimony, quote, that may subject the witness to retaliation by violence or threats of violence. And then any state level offense that's similar to the federal stuff. And then another one's basically a vibe check. I mean, they're never going to say it that way, but it's like, how do they feel about you? You know?
Well, because potentially somebody could be or would be a part of a criminal organization in order to have testimony to give, right? Not always, but I would say often probably somebody had a hand in whatever bad business was going down. So I guess you have to trust that that person isn't going to just move on to a different city with a different name and then continue to do the same thing.
Get right back to stamp fraud.
Mm-hmm. Because obviously this process is labor intensive and expensive.
Yeah. And you don't want that guy to go right back to selling loose cigarettes out in Hullabaloo, Montana, which is hopefully a city I just made up.
That's an exit that I've always considered.
Yeah. It's weird that sign's in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like Hullabaloo, Montana, this many hundreds of miles. Maybe we'll take that exit one day. But for now, we want you to know those are the basics. They seem pretty clear cut. But how does joining up with WITSEC actually work? How does Uncle Sam set you up with a brand new life? We're going to take the exit for a brief stop with our sponsors, and then we'll be right back on the road. All right, whatever. Here's where it gets crazy. Noel, I love that you're referencing Eastern Promises and History of Violence. They're two amazing films, and I know that we all love crime films. We all love that noir fiction, but this is not like in the movies.
Well, I mean, because they're getting something from you. So they have to ensure the quality of your testimony and check and double check and make sure that, you know, that it's going to hold water or sand or whatever material is appropriate for this analogy before they'll give you that level of attention, because like we're going to see, it's a big deal. It's a no turning back kind of situation. So they got to make sure that you're serious and that you have serious information to share that will hold up in court. And then they start going forward with the rest of the process, which isn't entirely unlike what we see in the movie, but it's also a little more minutia based and boring, you know, the actual process.
Every person that goes through, imagine the expenses associated with that one person to be processed. Now imagine that person has a family, a spouse and 2 kids. Like the line items on that budget it's gonna cost to, you know, protect this person and their family. You gotta be sure this is a person we need to protect.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna get expensive real fast.
Because when you think about, like, for example, in like a show like Better Call Saul, where you have criminals that are doing this through an underground version of this, like a service that someone provides, that's obviously fraud and like totally illegal, you know. But this has all the same hallmarks, but it's recognized by the government. So in order to cover their butts legally, got to be a ton of paperwork to make sure that they don't get their cover blown, but also that they are recognized, you know, and that essentially you are tricking other agencies, because you wouldn't want someone applying for a driver's license and then all of a sudden a red flag gets, you know, thrown up and their cover's blown. So it's something that has to be done on a systematic level.
Yeah, and there are weak links in the chain of secrecy. There almost always are. The thing is, first, a lot of people apply and don't pass muster. They don't make the cut because either they're, again, as we know, intelligence is perishable, right? So it might not matter. There might be another alternative to having someone in the WITSEC program, but also they have to evaluate the credibility of the threats against you. And because a lot of these people have a criminal background, Uncle Sam will also ask themselves what risk you may pose to a new community if you get relocated. This is where you see comedic versions of the witness protection trope, right? And that last part might sound odd, but again, it's not uncommon for folks in witness protection or witness security to have a criminal past. So if you're the authorities, or you're the OEO, and you know someone has a likelihood of changing their name but still committing crimes, that really complicates things. You don't want Max Power's astronaut with a secret suddenly get busted yet again for stealing dirigibles. You know what I mean? Like, people, that's a very specific crime. They will look at, you know, they'll look at the track record there.
Well, and I would imagine too, like, you know, they would probably treat civilians differently than, say, serious members of crime organizations who are essentially being bargained with, or this is a bargaining chip, you know, like they are perhaps they are negotiating down their sentence or whatever it might be. Like, is it worth it to us to protect you when you're the one that's put yourself in harm's way in the first place? And with those cases, it would be more about protecting their intel and their testimony, maybe a little more so than protecting that person's hide.
Oh, and what if the person you're going to give testimony against is already an FBI informant? Huh? Oh, no. The high-level person. That happens sometimes.
Wheels within wheels.
Like in, what's the movie, the Scorsese movie with Jack Nicholson?
Departed.
The Departed. And slight spoiler for a 15-year-old movie, it does turn out that the main bad guy in that has been dodging all of this stuff for so long because he is a high-level FBI informant.
And the dildo scene was completely improvised, the one in the movie theater.
I almost did a coffee spit.
It's true. It's improvised. Again. That's why Matt Damon's character looks so surprised, or one of those characters looks so surprised. That's a true story. All right. It doesn't matter for this. It doesn't matter for this. But the point is after assuming you pass muster, right? You have valuable information. You also are not going to be a huge risk if you get started over with a new life. And they call you Nil Wob Neb or something. It's Bimble and backwards.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, but if you pass those two things, then they give you an interview. The Marshal Service will interview you and prosecutors and whatever law enforcement agency has come to them to request your protection, and then you have to give them the application, their threat assessment, and then after that interview, they recommend whether or not you should be in WITSEC. They tell the OEO, hey, green light, yellow light, whatever. And at that point, at any point actually along the way, OEO can pull the plug on the whole operation. They can just change their mind. So you have to play nice. And for maybe the second to last time in your life, for the penultimate time in your life, you have to be completely honest. Do not try to hide stuff, no matter how small you think it is. And the last time that you will have to be honest for the rest of your life is in court, is when you give that testimony. And if they do the cost benefit analysis, they're really asking, how does the value of what you have to bring to the table, how does that stack up to the potential danger you might bring to the community? Not by your actions necessarily, but simply by your presence. What if you get found out, like that scene in all those horrible horror movies where someone says, hang on, Dr. Alucard is Dracula backwards. You know what I mean?
Dr. Dracula.
Yeah, exactly. He sucks. Anyway, I know. It's a wild week for us, folks. We got a lot going on, but okay. This is a hassle for everyone, right? And this only starts the process because, like we were saying, the idea is to grant total anonymity. They want you to blend in. They want to put you in a place where you won't stick out and you won't be recognized. And at first, that doesn't sound very difficult unless you're a high-profile public figure. There are thousands of cities where people move to and from every day. What's one more, That's how it sounds, but they're not playing around. Like as soon as you are signed up, you're whisked away. Just like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, spoilers, when the vacuum cleaner guy shows up with the van, right? And you just have to hop in.
That's the point of no return right there. Yeah.
Yeah, they take you to a safe house or to some safe holding location. They're necessarily vague about that and everything they say publicly. And then they try to coordinate multiple government agencies in absolute secrecy to set up your new life. And they have a huge double standard here. It's a necessary one, but I just want to point out it's a huge double standard. They want the public to forget all about you. As close as possible, they want you to have never existed, but they want to remember any and everything you've done. They actually pay way more attention to you than the average member of John Q. Public.
Oh, yeah. So wherever you're going, whether it's the temporary safe house or your brand new location, you can guarantee the folks that are helping you out along this process are going to give a nice little tip of the hat and heads up to the local law enforcement agencies that you're going to be working with in the future. You won't be working with them, but and it's not like they're going to leak all the information that they're trying to keep secret, right? They're just going to say, hey, heads up, there's a new guy in town. He's kind of known for this thing, so just keep an eye out. Here's this new name. Don't say anything about the old name, but just, check him out.
And keep this guy away from the town blimp.
Oh, especially
just in case. Yeah. He's got an airship thing. So
is that like the town bicycle? Is that like a euphemism?
No, not a euphemism. Like a good blimp. Like going back to the joke about stealing dirigibles.
I thought it was a fat joke.
No.
Stay away from the town.
We don't do those.
I know. I'm teasing.
But that's tremendously hurtful. That feels like a middle schooler made it up. They're the best with insults.
I always thought Blimpies was kind of a gross name for a sub sandwich chain too.
Blimpie. Yeah, it feels like some kind of like children's show mascot to me.
Yeah.
Blimpie.
Yeah. There we go. So true story. Blimpie was involved with Al-Qaeda.
Stop.
Everybody
Okay,
knows
no, they weren't. Blimpies best was not involved in Al Qaeda, right?
Are they still around? Are there still
Where Blimpies really come
places?
from? Do you guys know what the sandwich store's name was before? All right, whatever. We're not saying Blimpie is a member of WITSEC.
Yeah, it's called Fatwa Subs.
Yeah, that's it.
God.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So the marshals do give local law a heads up. And the marshals can also impose pretty much any caveats they want on a participant in witness protection. That means random drug and alcohol testing. They can also keep an eye on your finances. And there's one thing a lot of folks might not think about until the rubber hits the road. The marshals are not going to pay off any of your pre-existing debt. Doesn't matter if you're in deep with Maddie both hands at for some horse races, or you got a car
Not
note.
recommended.
No, don't
Guy's
play with
dangerous.
him. Yeah. Even with just the one hand, we can never tell you how he got his nickname. But, they're not going to pay off your student loans. Before you enter the program, you have to pay off any existing debts. If you have
What if you don't have it, though? I don't understand. And if you're disappearing, then technically you would be disappearing for all intents and purposes for those debts. So if they want you bad enough, surely you've got some bargaining power there, right?
One would think they bend the rules, because some of this stuff does fall into a gray area, or wait for it, liminal space.
Mm-hmm.
But
How do you come up with $60,000 for your student loan if you have to go into witness protection all of a sudden, right?
That doesn't make sense. I know this is all the sort of boilerplate stuff here, but there have to be situations where the exceptions are made.
I assume so, but it's also very difficult for members of the public to get the inside scoop on that sort of stuff, especially because it can be politically sensitive. Yeah. And it can, transparency can result in the failure of the program, by which we mean the people will get murdered. But you also have to provide child custody documents. You have to prove those kids are yours if they go with you into WITSEC. You can't just say okay, I will join the program as long as I can take my roomie, what's a sleazy? Oh, Snakebite. As long as I can take my boy Snakebite with me, he's just solid. And they're like, well, is he your family member? He's my brother, dog, in every way that counts.
If Snakebite doesn't go, I don't go.
Right.
We're a package deal, the government.
And they also won't pay for plastic surgery. They used to. Now they have in the past a couple times, but they will totally help you find a surgeon who can keep their mouth shut, but they're not going to put tax dollars toward it. So you have to pay for it, but they will recommend someone for you. And so there's a lot of stuff they won't do, but there is stuff they will do. They will help you they will find at least one reasonable job opportunity. If that doesn't work out, that's okay, but you have to keep looking for a job on your own. They want you to be as self-sufficient as possible, as soon as possible. They'll help you find a house, a place to live, maybe an apartment.
I imagine, Ben, you'd have a handler of some kind that's sort of checking in on you, maybe not physically, but in some way, shape, or form.
Definitely in the lead up to going to court. Definitely until you get settled in. It actually calms down a bit if you are able to toe the line and, not go back into the life of crime. They'll also give you some subsistence payments. This is pretty controversial. This is something on average of $60,000 a year, which is a pretty decent salary,
Yeah, plus a job? Come on, let's do this. Let's get in the witness protection program, guys. That sounds great.
I know.
I'll work at a Home Depot.
So they also give you, of course, all the new identity paperwork you need. We're talking social security numbers, birth certificate, driver's license, fishing license, totem chit in your Boy Scouts, I guess. And this is interesting. I didn't know this. They also arrange for counseling, should you so choose. Psychiatrists, social workers. I think that's really cool, actually, especially for the kids, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, your new name is Timmy now.
Right.
You're like, what? Why?
Oh, and speaking of weak links, I mean, no shade on kids or anything, but I mean, at school, you make a buddy and it's like, I got a secret, you know? I mean,
one last thing, as long as we're talking about the cool stuff, and you are raising a great point about the weak links here. We were texting our group chat before we recorded, like going into some of this episode, and the big question, who gets to choose your new name? Yeah.
Wouldn't there be maybe a pool of available identities that are already kind of pre-done? Or am I movie-fying this again? Just wondering.
Yeah, I movie-fied it a little bit myself in some old sketch comedy, but the cool thing is, in real life, witnesses can choose their own names. Now, they do get some pointers. The guy who created the program, Gerald Schur, he also wrote a book all about witness protection, and he talks about this.
I'd like to be Niels Barnes, if that's agreeable with you.
That's pretty great. Yeah. Let's talk about that book that Schur wrote. It's titled WITSEC, WITSEC, Inside the Federal Witness Protection Program. And this dude he lays it out for you. Here's some things you should do when considering changing your name.
Yeah, keep your current initials or same first name if possible. So, Matt Frederick, I had a pitch. How about, what do you think about Mike Farrakhan?
I like it.
It's so on the nose, it feels real, right? Like you wouldn't purposely choose that.
It's pretty good. I wanted to go with Michael Goldenschlager, but I guess that's fine.
No, that's great too. That's great too. Michael Goldenschlager-Steen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Michael Goldenschlager-Steenbergen. No,
sure.
Too much. Can I still be Niels Barnes?
Totally, unless you want to go with Nate Bobbins.
That one's, oh, wow. You're really giving, oh, my goodness, some things to consider.
These are terrible examples, probably due to sleep deprivation.
Well, Ben, you mentioned improv. I mean, that also is, if you notice shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm, most of the characters have their real first names. Because it just makes it easier for the improv, I guess. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's a good point too. And also, it's very easy to slip up. If you have a name that is, like, think about it. For the majority of these people, they have a instinctual primal response now to hearing their name. It has been ingrained in them for decades. So things can go sideways really quick if you were a Matt or a Noel, and all of a sudden now you're a Tobias. You will have tells. People will be able to see you process, oh, that's my fake name. Right.
Yeah. Well, and plus you can't ever take off your jean shorts ever again.
No, you're a never nude. That's another one of their caveats.
Your jorts. I mean, I have a friend who's a musician who often likes me to refer to them by their stage name. And I screw that up all the time because it is counterintuitive.
I know what you're talking about.
I know you do.
I refuse. I refuse. Call him by his other name every time on purpose. I hope you know that.
Yeah.
You.
Same. I struggle with it myself.
You all probably know this person a little better than I do, but yes, confirming the story, protecting the names. These name changes do go through the court system. Just like any other name change, the records are sealed, which hopefully is helpful, but I would argue that's another weak link. Local law enforcement can be corrupted. This is not a ding on anybody, but it happens.
Was it in Dragnet, this TV show, where they say the names have been changed to protect the innocent? I always love that. I always love that line. It's very intense, but similar deal.
I love that in anything. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I would love that in a Blimpies commercial. You know,
there we are. We're back. I got to find out though. Blimpies.
Yeah. No, we got to get some people on the case there.
I think it's just Blimpie, by the way. I don't think it's not plural or possessive. It's just Blimpie. Yeah, Blimpie restaurant substance. It's still around. It looks like they've rebranded a little bit. Yeah, it's America's Sub Shop. See, once again, suspect. Who are you to say that you are America's Sub Shop?
And then there's Blip E, which is totally different, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Totally. I know exactly what you're referring to.
Right. You're the you've got a book coming out on the difference, I believe, right? So yeah, we see the weak links, but we also see a tremendous opportunity, right, to bring justice to very dangerous people and organizations. And now we get to the brass tacks. Do they let you choose the neighborhood? Do I get to choose? Because for me and my family, I want a nice place, right? I want a kind of posh place. It'd be cool if there was a good view, good parking lots.
That seems like a premium service right there, though. You know, you got to pay extra for that.
Going to Brooklyn to hang out with what's his name we just talked about, old Charlie.
Oh yeah, McGonagall. Yeah. Now that sounds like a fake name, but anyway,
it's literally a character in the Harry Potter movies,
right? And an FBI agent who got turned. But you're probably not going to go to a super nice neighborhood, because super nice neighborhoods tend to be insular, and rich people also tend, in general, to stick out in this country, especially nowadays. The point is to blend in. You're going to have a life that would not be enviable. And the Marshal Service will give you 24-hour protection when you're in a high threat area, basically all the time leading up to court appearances. And if it goes well, you make it to court, then you're still in the program. But getting to court is the most tricky part of the whole thing.
Guys, do you think there is a position within this witness security protection matrix that goes in undercover and like checks up or tests the people who are currently under protection? Like, you just go to a bar, you follow somebody who's in protection, you watch that they go to a neighborhood bar every Wednesday evening or something. You go sit at the bar once or twice every couple of whatever, and just like sit down and start up a little chat and see what you can get out of them on purpose. Can we create that? And can I do it? And then you also pay me $60,000 plus whatever that salary is, please. Witness security
to be the WITSEC auditor.
Yeah, I want to do that. Would sound so much fun.
Yeah, I think you'd have to be careful of entrapment too.
No, it's just a little test. It's just like a hey, and at the end of the conversation, you just go, Mike. You just call them by their real name. Like, you gotta be more careful.
Public? No.
yeah, just quietly at the bar.
Or like, what if you just call it by the fake name and then try to get into casual stranger level conversation about their life and their background?
Yeah.
Is it still considered doxing if you blow someone's witness protection cover, or is there must be a whole nother name?
It's worse, way worse.
Yeah,
right?
Oh God, is it worse?
It's super. Yeah, no, it's like it's the equivalent of stomping on a kid's macaroni picture. The marshals are not going to take well to it, and like, can you imagine someone applying for witness protection because they've been implicated in blowing up past witness protection cases? That's a tall milkshake. I don't know.
Bad look.
Yeah. They don't love it. But okay. So this guy, sure, he describes all the weird stuff they do to get witnesses to court safely. They smuggle people in mail trucks. They fly them in helicopters. They even snuck some dudes on to court via fishing boats. In one instance, he relates in his book, an armored car was sent with a full police escort as a decoy to get this mob guy who had turned, Joseph Barboza, into court. And so while they had this huge spectacle, this production of armored cars and police escorts, there was nobody really in the armored car. They snuck Joseph Barboza in through a side door at the courthouse. They just ushered him in. And even if you are no longer in the program, you can still be given protection if you're testifying for, in the case for which you entered the program. And at that point, you might be saying, wait, people get out of witness protection? We'll get to that in a second, but maybe first we take a break and come back with some good news. Does this program work?
And we're back. And when we left, we asked the question, does the witness security program work? Well, according to the folks who make it happen, yes, sir. At least they have pretty good numbers.
Yeah.
So, according to the Marshals Service, since 1970, the program has achieved an overall conviction rate of 89%. Sounds pretty solid. As a result of protected witness testimony, and more than 10,000 criminals have been put away as a result, have received convictions.
And you have to think the reason why that works is because there is a witness protection program. That 89% conviction rate and that number of criminals wouldn't be going to jail because people would be terrified to give testimony against an organization internally unless there was a program like this. There's still be terrified even though the program exists, but it's at least there.
And I think at this point, too, we have to mention, we've talked about it before, and I know it can be controversial for some folks, but it's just the reality. The U.S. justice system has huge problems, massive inequality, a lot of dirty things happening that are against the letter and spirit of the law. Everyone agrees it's far from perfect. That is a known, that is a given. The wealthy in this country have an entirely different set of laws most times, right? But we have to keep in mind, the folks who are being targeted, the folks who are the ultimate end goal of witness protection programs, these are bad dudes. They're pretty dangerous, and we don't say that lightly. And they also typically are going to have a surprising amount of reach, a high level of sophistication. If they have info on a witness, they will not hesitate to act on it, often through their own proxies. We're talking about something close to a shadow organization that tries to match what the Marshal Service does. There's an underground game of cat and mouse that can play out, and the American public does not know about it. So that sounds a little dark. Let's stay on that though. Let's stay kind of dark. Why would you find witness security controversial? Let's say we're voters and we have a bone to pick with witness protection as a concept. Why wouldn't we like it?
Well, I mean, you're potentially hooking a criminal up, right? If this is somebody who's inside the organization, as we keep mentioning, and they're just, turning on the people who are also in the organization, they're probably not a great person who maybe did some horrible things, and you're going to give them $60,000 a year and protect them and also get them a job? I don't know.
You might be thinking like, hey, I've lived in this town forever, and most of us make under $40,000 and are not criminals. So why are we paying for this guy who definitely killed some folks to get a cushy job, a nice house, and $60,000 a year?
The taxes. I always forget about the taxes.
Oh, right. Crap, it's coming up.
Yep. But it's just the concept that we're all dishing out for the other folks. But that's fine. This is this program it's a drop in the bucket compared to a lot of other major programs that we're also paying for.
Sure. Yeah. How much of your income goes to pay for Sidewinder missiles, things like that. Yeah. Because you don't get a little form in your taxes that check off where you want the money to go.
And we don't even get to play with the missiles.
No.
This doesn't seem fair.
They get mad at you just for going to the fence. It's weird.
If we make some weird looking balloons, we shoot them up really high, maybe we could get to play with a missile, at least in a secondhand way.
Yes.
I support this idea.
Yes. I'm adding that to my list of billionaire pranks. That's great. So the Marshal Service, Uncle Sam in general, they're aware of this controversy and they get it. You know what I mean? And a lot of individuals who make witness security work have probably had their own ethical quandaries, right? Like they have probably had some dark nights of the soul about the concept of greater good, right? Are we letting an evil person go in order to combat a greater evil? And that's a tough question to answer. And that's not a ding on the people who are involved with these programs. That's just saying we understand the conundrums and dilemmas that could arise. Because the marshals are sensitive, they want you self-sufficient. ASAP. Like you need to be at least aggressively seeking a job or they're cutting you off. And when they cut you off, when they turn off the faucet, for that subsistence, that $60,000 a year, they'll tell you, hey, why don't you just enroll in public assistance?
Wow.
Yeah, so they don't want to play. And the most important rule is you got to uphold the conspiracy. This is where everybody goes wrong when they try to ghost. You cannot contact your former associates, your family members. In the age of social media, that means no more dopamine rushes from your look at me casino of choice, right? No Instagram, no Twitter, no TikTok, no Facebook, no more YouTube comments.
Sorry, what?
No more phone calls either, Matt, to your old friends.
At
all.
Oh, okay. All right.
No WhatsApp, no Telegram. Wow. I like that. Matt, you're like Robert De Niro in Heat.
Yeah,
You know
I'm
what I
gonna
mean?
go to the pond and just be.
And of course, you can't go back to your old town or any place you hung out. They're just going to have to wonder what happened to you. And we talked about this, the success rate. The Marshal Service phrases this in a really kind of, I don't know, I think it's a sinister, nuanced way to phrase the success of their program.
Yeah, they say, quote, "No witness who has followed these rules has ever been killed."
Dun, dun,
So
dun.
if you follow it, you're going to be okay. Otherwise, what are we going to do?
Sort of like voiding your warranty, on a piece of equipment. If you if you try to fix it yourself and you do the thing where you open it up and mess around, we can't help you. We no longer cover you and we do not claim you.
No one in a submarine has died in a car accident while in the submarine. You know what it's just a tricky way to frame it.
It's like the no one dies at Disney World situation.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck, Mike Loudenslager, or whatever I said before.
Goldenschlagerstein.
Thank you.
Something else. There was another one at the end. What was it, Noel? Goldenschlagerstein.
Bergen.
Goldenschlagerstein Bergen. Yes. And your children will hate you when they learn that they didn't have to write the entirety of that name in school. You know what I mean? I always felt bad for the kids with really long names.
Well, speaking of your children hating you, I'm sorry, this is a little out of order here, or going back to something we said earlier. Kids freak out and go through crazy, phases for nothing. Not to mention if you uproot them from their school and move to another town, let alone change their name, and they never get to see their friends or family ever again. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine it being a huge problem, and a very difficult Rubicon to cross. So we'd have to talk with professionals to see how they navigate that, especially when children are on social media, expected to be on social media at an increasingly early age. So once you're settled in, let's say all of this goes well, you're following the rules, your kids, your loved ones that are with you, you're fine. You have a new job. You work at, the Home Depot or the Lowe's, or you have an office job, something like that. And you are now living some version of the American dream. The good news is after all the hullabaloo passes, you only have to check in with the government once a year.
Hullabaloo, Montana?
After the hullabaloo Montana moment passes, you do have to check in with them if you have a big life change, if you want to move, if you commit any kind of crime. They are going to know about it before you do. And any government agency that wants to contact you about anything having to do with your old life, from the very top to the very bottom, they have to go through the Department of Justice, through the OEO or the Marshals. And that can irritate some people. Some people want to go out, which is why one in five of them commit crimes again and get in trouble.
You mean go out out on the town, or you mean just escape that life?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Escape the boredom and or just fall back on some things that you know how to do, and you can make a little more money doing that, maybe, potentially. Right?
I want to feel alive again. Let's do an old-fashioned grift.
Yeah, but 17% is not bad, right? Especially if you think about people who are incarcerated and then the recidivism rate after getting out of prison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's about 40% recidivism rate. Only about 60% of paroled criminals manage to stay out of trouble. And again, I want to go back to some of the systemic problems there. Do powerful forces conspire to keep the prisons of this country a revolving door? Yes, 100%. It can be very difficult to get out of that cycle. That's why a common saying in the U.S. prison system is it's easy to get in and it's hard to get out. But like we alluded, like you were mentioning, Noel, Matt, you can also just quit witness protection. If you want, you can just go. And if you leave, the marshals will still keep tabs on you for the rest of your life because they need to be able to locate you at any time for any reason. And again, they say if you follow the rules, they have a 100% success rate, but other countries have witness protection too. Lots of countries, and they're independent organizations. Unfortunately, not everyone is as successful as the U.S. And in some cases, I'm thinking of Italy in particular, their operations have been compromised. So your mileage may vary. But knowing all this, the question is for us, this is for you listening with us, would you join witness security? Would you join witness protection?
Yes.
I think we came up with some good names. You would join it?
Yeah, I would change my name, though. I want to be Crystal Pemberton.
Wow. Okay. Okay, CP. All right.
I like it. Doesn't really follow the initials rule, though.
No,
I don't
it's gonna be
care.
tough.
My name is Crystal now.
That's so crystal of you, bro.
Crystal with a K or with a C?
Ooh, probably a C.
Okay, fair enough. Classic Crystal. Mm-hmm.
CRYSTAL?
Definitely.
Okay. You're not going to style on the name?
Nope. Pemberton, just as you imagine.
Are people going to call you Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that adds it.
I'm going to build this whole character out
of realism.
Get my D&D stuff. It's going to be awesome.
Fantastic. What about you, Noel? Would you join witness protection?
Well, yeah, as opposed to the alternative of being tortured and murdered. Absolutely. I mean, it seems like it's a rock and a hard place kind of situation. Nobody wants to join witness protection program, but if given the alternative, I think it's probably a pretty good bet. Rolling the dice there rather than just fending for yourself. And I stand by Neil's Barnes.
I think it's good.
If you please. Yeah.
I think it's good.
How about you, Ben?
No comment. So we would
come on.
Maybe he's already in it.
Yeah. The Marshal
Wait a
Service said start a new life by doing a podcast about conspiracies.
Well, you kind of just fell into it, Ben. Hold on.
All right.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
We got to protect him, Noel.
I like that you're saying it's a bet, though, because that's the question. You're betting against yourself. Could you participate in an ongoing conspiracy every day, every hour, every minute for the rest of your life? What do you think, folks? Let us know. Again, as Matt said so beautifully at the top here, if you are actively in witness protection, don't write to us.
No.
We got your back.
Don't call us.
Don't email us because we also want you to be safe. And anything we can do to help in that regard probably falls under the category of not being in contact.
Correct.
That sounds cold. But
if you're not in witness protection.
But if you're not in witness protection, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So find us on the internet. So somewhere.
Yeah, you can if you have the internet. If they even what about the internet? You think we didn't really talk about that, right?
No.
Like, do they filter your internet? Do they somehow limit your ability to do normal outreach, internet-y type stuff? Do they closely monitor your social? What about social media? Do people in witness protection have social media?
Not really. We also we didn't mention. Maybe we'll get to this in the future, but we didn't have time to mention a side effect of increasing witness security folks who are associated with terrorist groups and are often in the country illegally. That's another thing that's really controversial to some people because now is that functioning as a backdoor to something like citizenship? A lot of people find that. A lot of people object strongly to that. But let us know your thoughts on social media,
That's right. You can find us at Conspiracy Stuff on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, where we have our Facebook group. Here's where it gets crazy. On Instagram and TikTok, we are Conspiracy Stuff Show. But wait, there's more.
If you have a phone and you would like to use it, to use your mouth to talk to us, call 1-833-STDWYTK and leave a message. You've got 3 minutes. Give yourself a cool nickname. We don't care what it is, as long as it's not your government name or your WITSEC name. Again, don't call us if you're in the program. Let us know if we can use your name and voice on the air. If you would like to not use your mouth and voice, why not instead use your hands and phone or computer to email us? We are
conspiracy@iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.